What's going on? This is Chris Rubio of the Rubio Method. I'm here with one of my favorite people in the world. I think it's because I like to argue with her, slash it's kind of like I'm talking to the exact same person because she goes all over the place. We're going to do a long form podcast right now. So we're going to try to limit it to, let's say, 8 hours, simply because Whitney loses focus at times, but it's always in a good way. So Whitney, if you see my hands go up, that's me saying, oh my God, for the love of all that is holy, stop talking. Let me jump in here. So Whitney Hruza, owner of One Shot Charlie's in my favorite city in the world, Harrison, Idaho. Whitney, can you tell us who you are? I just meet you at the library, say we're both at the library for some reason, if libraries are still a thing. And I say, who are you? I want you to give me 40 seconds of who Whitney Hruza is.
I'm a mom, I'm a business owner, and I'm someone trying to figure out this post-COVID society and how I operate in it, right? I had been operating this business for years and successful. I had a different team, a better team, an amazing team around me. With me, we were all one big team, and things have changed since post-COVID. And so I am a business owner, I'm a mom and a wife, just here in my little town that I love, trying to figure it out.
Okay.
Is that
How did you get to Harrison, Idaho? How did you get there? Because you're originally from Boise, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm originally from Kimberly, Twin Falls area, but you always say Boise, and I'm totally fine with that.
Okay.
Graduated from Centennial High School, got a softball scholarship, headed up to North Idaho College, and I was raised by a bunch of tough old coaches that taught me how work ethic and all this stuff. And Rubio, now pause, because see, now it's stuck in my head of where I was going.
No, you're doing fine.
Okay,
No,
so
you're
just keep
good.
going now.
Yeah, we'll keep going.
Okay,
Okay.
but so
when you got to NIC, were you the student athlete? Were you an athlete student? What was it? Were you yay rah 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 education or rah 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 sports?
Oh, I'm not smart. I'm not book smart at all.
Okay, so you're one of
I
those.
am street smart. I am super street smart. I have a ton of logic and critical thinking. But the other day, my husband asked, or somebody asked, my kid asked me to do like 18 and 22, or 18 and 12, and I came up with 22 just because I threw it out there. Obviously,
And
those
another.
numbers don't go.
Okay, so but you have an incredible work ethic. Anyone that knows you, okay, they cannot agree with you on certain things. They may piss you off. You may piss them off, but you have an incredible work ethic. How did you get your work ethic? Is it because you were raised with 6 brothers and sisters? Your mom passed away at 13. Is it all just kind of combo up?
It's all of that, right? I mean, it's all that. It's everything that makes you you. And I think the biggest thing though was my softball career. We had a bunch of coaches that were all males and that had their sons as their previous uh, um, players. And so they treated us like boys. So there was no crying. There was no excuses. You were down the dirt. You didn't get to go home early if you screwed up. There was extra laps to the fence. There was extra laps around the field. There was extra, standing in the box.
Any good softball injuries? Any good softball injuries?
I got hit in the face with the softball, stood there and took it and watched the rest of the practice. And then after practice was over, rode my bike home. Mom wasn't home, waiting for her to get home. And so I've had to have surgery on it to get like the extra, because it was so like, by the time somebody got home, it was dried up. It was gross. But yeah, so I got this nice little scar here, but no broken bones. And again, that was just, you sit there and you suck it up and you deal with it.
Okay, because yeah, I would say everyone that knows you, even if they don't like you, they would say, well, she's very tough. Okay, well, we'll give her that. And she's very opinionated and she's very quote unquote set in her ways, but your ways have adjusted over the past, well, I've known you for probably 15 years at this point, I think. Your ways have adjusted to rah-rah family, which is fantastic, to rah-rah family building a business, fantastic, to rah-rah family building a business and keeping slash building a community. How have you evolved like that?
Podcast.
Okay.
Looking around me, there is COVID, right? Post COVID, everything changed.
Yeah.
There was so much that opened up your way of thinking and how we had to take care of ourselves. and just stuff. So you touched on it. My mom passed away when I was 13. We all raised ourselves. My dad, I can't even imagine. It's the older I've gotten and the more closer I've gotten to the stages of in my life that my dad was, I understand a lot more of why he did some of the things he did, But now that you're a parent, it's like that's your world. Like I feel the best gift I've ever been given was my two kids. Like that's my world. That's what that puts the biggest smiles on my face, all those things. And so now everything is about how do you take care of them? How do you give them the best life possible? How do you instill the work ethic in them? How do you make sure that they turn out, with all of your good qualities and none of your bad qualities? So at this point now, it's like, it just is when you're a parent, there's just something that clicks. And for me, it was COVID that clicked it in. Like this whole, everything is so tied together. Every moment is tied together. And so being in this community in Harrison, Idaho, it's so small and you realize how you affect each other and that you depend on each other and all these different things. So I don't even know if that answered your question, Rubio, but it's just, COVID opened my eyes. All I did was do books and podcasts, and it just changed my outlook on, okay. And there's so many different things. I mean, I could probably point to a million things that are just what I feel is dumb luck or, your path that God puts you on. I mean, whatever one you want to buy into, I do think it's a path that God put me on. And I think I've come to that because more people keep saying it to me. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm in. That makes sense to me because nothing else does. But there's a gentleman in Southern Idaho, Dave Crick. He runs a restaurant group called just, oh God, now I can't even think of it, Just Eat Local. And he has some amazing restaurants. He called me and asked me to be on this board that he sits on. And it's trying to get local food to local restaurants, local products to local distributors. And it's this whole, and again, he's been working on it forever in Southern Idaho, but COVID made me be like, why aren't we doing that up here in Northern Idaho? Food chains are important, where you get your stuff, where how is your neighbor making money too, not just you. And it's fine. Go ahead.
It seems like a no-brainer. I mean, it's one of those things that you say it out loud, and it's like, yeah, why wouldn't I, if I'm in Northern Idaho, get products from Northern Idaho people, less on shipping, less on gas, blah blah blah. And I think I've known you for so long that, like I said, it was mom restaurant, mom community, and now the common denominator, what I'm thinking about, and I just came across this revelation, is I think you get so fired up about your community because in your mind, and anyone that looks at you from the outside, you almost take over the role of, here's my community. I need to become the mom of the community because there's so many things that are going incorrect within my community, i.e. my house. And then I'm thinking metaphorically that everyone in my house is somewhat my kids, and I don't want my kids to go down this path. So I got to talk to them about this. And yes, I want my kids to touch the hot stove one time because they need to learn. But after that one time, if you keep touching the hot stove, we've got problems, and I'm not doing my job as a mom. Does that sound somewhat like, oh man, Rubio kind of got me where I'm kind of trying to be the mom of the whole community? Because you're so passionate about it. Every time I come into One Shots, you grab me, you throw me over here, and then you're, and it's like, for the love of God, take a breath. Okay, so am I right or somewhat right?
I feel a sense of responsibility. Yes.
Okay.
I feel a civic duty. Yes. Mom role, I mean, maybe to a point, or maybe I just don't like that analogy, but I mean, if that's what you see and what you feel, that's, I'm not that snowflake, but again, if you, yes, that sounds right. I feel very responsible. I feel a weight on my shoulders to help make sure that Harrison doesn't die. If you're here in the summertime, you would think that Harrison is this just booming, popular, crazy, amazing town. Come walk in my neighborhood right now. Come walk down Main Street right now. It's empty. It's a ghost town. Ruby, I'm going to do this really quick, and then you're going to tell me where to stand. So I don't know how many people have seen this, and I don't even know if you can see it really well, Rubio,
Yeah, I can see it.
but this is an old map, and we were going to figure out how to maybe do this better. But this is an old map of Harrison, Idaho in 1905,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like that is the One Shots building. Next to that, I don't know, can you see it, Rubio?
I can see it.
Up one more is where the park was. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 buildings or businesses. Over here, right here, this was where all the mills were at. There was
Yeah.
nine, well, oh, no, I shouldn't say it. It was a 7 or 9. Somebody's gonna have to fact check me. There were 7 to 9 mills on the water here in Harrison. The Spokane Dam got put on and they're all buried. Like we had a huge booming population and just a buzzing community, and the whole town got burnt down in 1917.
Okay.
Since then, we haven't ever had a lighthouse that they're all working and pointing towards and be like, yep, that's where we're going. There's not an industry here anymore. So everyone's been like, okay, well, we figured out these resort dollars. Let's figure out how to make a living on resort dollars. Well, then after resort dollars comes investor dollars, and investors don't care about your community. I mean, let's be honest, they're here to make a buck. And so that's what's happened right now is there's this goofy line between people that are saying that they're coming into our community, but that they're investors. They're not here to volunteer at your community event. They're not here to go make a crock pot of soup for the people at the Grange that need to raise some funds. And so they're going to have a soup and pie this coming Sunday. They're not there to come and bake those pies or buy those pies. They're not here to help pick up trash when there's after an event.
They're
There's
there.
just stuff in a small town that's different than other places.
Okay, so they're there to invest. But okay, devil's advocate, if I'm an investor, I'm looking and saying, okay, yes, I want to invest in Harrison, Idaho, because I'm buying 5 homes in Harrison. I'm going to make them all VRBOs. I want it to be a strong community because I don't want to make Harrison a ghetto because then my investments go poof. So what's the counter answer to that?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like if you're saying that an investor, I'm a big rich investor. I'm coming in from New York City, and I'm buying 5 homes that I'm going to make VRBOs. How do you talk to me and say no? You're not doing that. I don't think it's a good idea because you're not going to invest in the community. And I'm saying I'm literally buying 5 homes. That's investing in your community.
So those 5 homes sit empty November, December, January, February, March, and April, and sometimes into May, right?
Okay.
So now, again, so yes, thank you very much for putting that investment into the community for people that are going to be here in May, June, July, and August. We've never had a problem with May, June, July, and August. We have a problem with September, October, November, December, January, and obviously, right, September is getting better. October, as long as the weather's good, is better. April and May depends on the bicyclists and how tough they are and what their weather is going to be. But now what you're doing is you're turning us into a town that is only operating in 4 months. And
Okay.
now every single business owner has to make all their money in 4 months, because what's going to happen? You're going to keep heating that house. You're going to keep all the electricity on that house when you're going to get 1 or 2 renters in the wintertime. No, you shut it down. And the reason why you shut it down is because, again, no one, there's a proverb. I'm going to go squirrel for just a second.
Okay.
There's a proverb that I really like. And again, dumb luck that I stumbled onto it. It's called Chesterton's Fence. I bring it up so many times now. And it's again, one of those things, like once you hear it, okay, 2 men go walking through a field. They come across the field. There's a fence in the field. The first guy looks around and is like, this fence makes 0 sense. The second, let's tear it down. Like, we don't need it here. Let's tear it down. The second guy comes and says, no, there's a fence in the field for a reason. You and I might not understand it and know it right now, but that fence, somebody took time to be like, okay, here's where it needs to go. Then they took the energy and the labor and the materials to build it. And then they didn't tear it down. So we're not tearing down that fence until we understand who put it here, why they put it here, and if we still need it then. Just because we can't see it now doesn't mean it was never needed. So I feel like that's what's happened is people like move into Harrison, these investors, and they think we're all a bunch of redneck idiots that don't see what we have. Well, no, what we have is once you live here for a couple years, and it's funny because I butt heads with people and then we're best friends. And it's when they first get here, like, right, we all are on this journey. We're all growing up. We're all changing. We're all adapting. That's what you're supposed to do. So as the longer I've been here, I think the less confrontational I get. I'm still me with emotions and passions. But again, I think there's not a business owner on this street besides one that doesn't love me and that we don't sit there and chat for, every time I see him. But so there's not a consistent snow pack in Harrison, Idaho. There's not consistent ice. So those winter sports, those things that you do in the winter, it's not here. No matter what you do, you can't build an ice rink. You're not going to get people to go ice skating. You're not going to get people to go cross country skiing. You don't have a consistent enough weather pattern in the winter in Harrison, Idaho to draw people in to do that, right? And so when you come in, hold on, Rube.
Hold on. Okay, so I'm an investor from New York City. I want to invest in 5 homes. And then you're telling me all this stuff. And so you're saying, okay, you could only make money 4 months of the year. And then I'm going to say, okay, Whitney, I want you to sell it to me where I can make money an additional 8 months a year. But you're saying we can't do an ice rink, we can't do long cross-country skiing. So what is your thought or idea? Because you want money coming into Harrison. Ideally, you'd want 100 families to move into Harrison, Idaho, and stay there year-round. It's not going to happen right now, okay? But if you have investors that are coming in, sell me, I'm the New York City investor, sell me how to live the Harrison 12-month dream.
There's never going to be 12 months because I don't think there's anybody that has the climate shifts like we do that, just kills it all 12 years long, all 12 months long, all year. My idea is I think we need to become a farm to table community. I think that hold
on. Not, you know what farm to table means. I know what farm to table means. People that are watching or listening to this, they might not know what farm to table means. What does that mean? You want to be a farm to table community?
We are surrounded by farmland that right now, because of the way everything evolved, there's not people that are farming it to sell locally to people. They farm hay. There's a lot of hay. There's a lot of those kind of things, but there's not people that are growing like vegetables and things like that to sell to local restaurants, right? So in Sandpoint and in that area, there's a ton of farms that they make their living by growing food for their community and selling it in their community. And then everybody in that community is like, these are my amazing hothouse tomatoes. And then when I make the BLT, I make the best BLT because they were grown over there by Johnny, and Johnny loves his tomatoes. It's like the whole Portlandia thing, right? So farm to table is that you're trying to eat as close to your table as possible, right? So it comes off the farm as close as you possibly can, and it comes onto your table. So right now, the average tomato, so I'm not even gonna put it, but the average tomato travels 3 states before you even get it. It has chemicals sprayed on it, and it's not even like, I have broccoli that was in my fridge. I shouldn't even tell this. I think it's been in there for 3 weeks. It still looks crisp and green and all this stuff. It shouldn't by now, right? I made homemade bread 2 weeks ago, got home moldy within a couple of days.
Homes or how many acreages of your acreage do you need to become a farm to table community? Like, okay, you've got One Shot, you've got all these other places in Harrison. How many acres or how many farms does Harrison, Idaho need? Can like 1 home do it with 6 acres? Can 10 homes do it? I mean, I don't know. So like, I'm an investor, make me invest.
The draw would be to bring people that love and are passionate. So you have a gal right now up on the flats, right? So if everybody knows Harrison, Idaho, you come down to this little point and Harrison's here. Above us to the, what direction is that, Rubio? That way. That is west, southwest.
East.
Southeast. See, this is why I told you I'm not book smart. I'm just, so southeast, thank you, southeast. And there's a ton of farmland. And so it's like, there's a gal right now who she just posted on Instagram who she's planting a ton of garlic, right? She is also killer at tomatoes and at also other peppers. So it's like, okay, so everyone does salsa, or she's going to specialize in salsa and garlic, right? You got another person that can grow herbs. You have another person that can do corn. You know, if you have somebody that loves to bake, like they can then bake. There's another fun little story. So right before COVID, there was a community review, and a bunch of us all got into a room together and said, hey, what are we doing? What's the lighthouse, right? What is the lighthouse, and how are we going to save Harrison? It was a state organized think tank, I guess, for Harrison. And this guy so the people had just sold the building next door. A new guy came in. And so I felt it was really important that he knew, as the second biggest building in town, or he's probably the first doesn't matter. He's a big building in town. Like right now, the community is trying to say, okay, what are we doing? And how are we moving forward? And so I started sending him all the information. And then he called me, or I can't remember the exact story, but we got on the phone and he was telling me that he was going to put this coffee shop and a sandwich shop in there. And I was like, you can't, that's not what you can do. Like, you need to put a commercial kitchen in there. You need to have it be a wedding venue. You need to have the seamstress over there. You need to have the floral, and you need a salon, right? Because then I can help cater, or I don't want to cater. I will help check in the food for whatever caterer comes in. And we've been good buddies ever since. We're trying to figure it out, So Rubio, get me back on track. Like,
No, you're
the
fine.
farm to table, everybody has their piece, right? The Shannons down on the river, they have this gorgeous barn, and Ben is amazing. He just got engaged to a beautiful girl. He's out living his best life.
How do you get people on board with this? How do you get people on board with this? Because you're basically, you're not going to put out a job application. I need a baker. I need a salsa woman. I need a tomato man. We've got Big Brad's Meats. That's not a problem. We've got all this stuff. Like, how do you sell that idea to someone? Like, how do you sell it to get people to do it? Because it's a great idea. It's obviously the food's going to taste a hell of a lot better, but it's one of those things. How do you sell it? Okay, I'm putting you in charge now. How are you going to sell it? Sell it to me.
Rubio, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, Rubio. Focus up. I'm going to start talking. I'm going to put, so with Fair Idaho, I hope I can say that, and some tools and some people that I know, I'm going to figure it out. I don't know yet. I'm going to come and talk. Like, I read books, I listen to podcasts, and you start telling people what you're doing and what you're passionate about, and they find you. And so I close down one shots, right? I close down one shots because my team.
Let's talk about that. This is my favorite place on the planet. I've got my own spot there. I don't have a nameplate yet, which upsets me, but we'll talk about that later. Why did you close One Shots? Because it's never been closed for this long, and it's not permanently closed. It's just you weren't even open for Oktoberfest, were you?
Nope.
Okay, so you've been closed for, let's say, a month. Why?
I lost my team.
Okay. And who makes up your team?
Jordan and Amanda.
Okay. Jordan's your brother. Amanda's your sister-in-law.
Yep.
He was going to change jobs, and he no longer wanted to be One Shot part owner / bartender / liaison. And then
this wasn't his dream, right? This wasn't his dream.
One Shot was his dream. He wanted to pursue his dream. He worked with you for X amount of years. You finally said, "I'm going to let the bird fly, little bird, fly."
No, he got to fly. I didn't let him do anything. He got to do what he wanted to do.
Well, that's what I'm
Rubio,
saying.
Rubio, you stop it right now.
So,
okay,
he's gone, but okay, One Shot's had a good summer without Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but what it is, right, is that we always joked around like we didn't know what my skill set was. Like, Amanda is organized. She keeps everything. It's like she keeps everything organized. She was the one that would make everything pretty. When I put up the big painting, and then Amanda would make it happen. So I would be like, bleh. And she'd be like,
yeah,
that's all I had to do is I just said it. And then it just happened. You know, Jordan has this amazing personality that when I'm like, sharp and tough. He's like, come here, buddy. Let me come have a drink and let me help you wipe your tears that she just made you cry. Like we were just this,
You were
we
the
had this
yin and
great,
yang. You were the yin and yang. There was no doubt about that.
yeah. So we had this amazing team. And then what had happened is because we had this team, we were able to do everything. We were able to do anything. And so you're used to running your machine a certain way,
100%.
and your machine changes,
100%.
right? They pulled out the computer and said, operate it now. And with the changes, with the lack of people in town, right? There's just no more people in town. The Airbnbs, there's 83 homes. And now out of those 83, 23, 26, somebody, is going to fact check me on that one, but 26 of those 83 homes are now Airbnbs. So I'm not saying that every single one of those people lived in it and came to one shots all winter long, but it was more income. And that's only been 2 years since they passed this code in the city of Harrison. That's, in my opinion, kind of a joke. There was a much better one to go off of. But so
So hold on, hold
with
on.
having that team,
Hold on, hold on.
I'm weaving.
The
I'm
code
weaving.
is, hold on. The code is that they're allowed to do Airbnbs or VRBOs or Verbos or whatever the hell they're called. That's the new
They have to
code.
register. They have to register them. So now they get a business license, and now where before, I
And
mean,
you're
I can go for
you're
hours on this,
saying,
Rubio. So
and you're
I
hold
don't
on,
want to talk about it big.
you're
Okay, go
saying
ahead.
it's a negative because it's basically if a person owns a home and they make it a VRBO or Verbo, whatever the hell it's called, it's you're basically saying there's no doubt that I'm not going to be there permanently, and I'm just going to do weekenders from April through September, where you're trying to get more permanent.
You need more permanent. You can't have a community if you don't have permanent residents. You don't have
Okay.
people to vote. You don't have people to volunteer. You don't have people to take the jobs. You don't have people to help with the incomes. Yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, I don't even know why it's an argument. Like, it makes sense. Like the gentleman that I was talking to outside, who's a born and raised in Coeur d'Alene, part of a huge restaurant resort group here. And he's saying that the VRBOs in this area are killing Coeur d'Alene, and that's a much bigger area. So, yeah, the VRBOs, to me, what had happened is before the code was put in place, it's one of those things that you when you don't know the rules,
Mm.
most people kind of try and dodge it a little bit, right? Well, once the rule is in place, now you know what you can do. It's wide open. Oh, okay, I got it. Now I can do this. Where before we didn't have a code, so I mean, I can see both sides of the argument, but now it's like, yeah, not only did we put a code in place that gives you now you have the permission to do this, we gave you such a loose code that why wouldn't you? Right. And again, I struggle with this whole Idaho independence, property rights. You don't get to tell me what I get to do in my property. And how do you thread the needle of, well, okay, well, we have a small community here, and everybody does affect everybody. And so I feel like we went off on a total, like, I feel like it's not coming together, but the VRBOs in Harrison, Idaho has made it to where there's less people in town that are here to support our community all year round, not only in supporting my restaurant, right? Supporting a local coffee shop, volunteering at the fire department, working at City Hall, going to the library, going to the grocery store, using the post office. There's nobody here to support City Hall, right? There's nobody here to clean up the streets. There's nobody here to do all those nice little buttoned up things, because now if you live in a city, right? So there's so much more. You live in the city, obviously your house is a little bit cheaper. You go outside of Harrison, which we're surrounded by Kootenai County, it's a
Mm-hmm.
20-acre parcel. Well, that's fantastic. I don't want my neighbors on top of me. I
Mm-hmm.
drive up and down the road and I see these houses that are built on top of each other. And they say, well, we just came from the coastal states and we're here because we love Idaho. I learned that new word, coastal
Yeah.
states.
Got it.
And when I was down in Arizona last weekend. But so we moved here from the coastal states and we just love your area. Okay, well then why are you building, and we don't want to bring it with us. Okay, well then why are you building houses on top of each other?
Because they
Why are
don't.
you buying our huge properties and trying to find loopholes where we have it as 20s that you want to break it down to fives, or you want to break it down even to like 0.3 of an acre? You don't think that's going to change everything? You don't think that in 20 years down the road, that gives you this, what you just left? Like, they're not seeing that Chesterton fence thing. They're not seeing that ripple effect. And that's what's so hard. And I think it's because I probably listened to too much. My husband's like, you're not living in the moment. You're out there listening to everybody else. There was a great one this morning on impact theory. I don't know if anybody listens to impact theory, but my guy, Brett Weinstein, was on there, and he did a great explanation of what happens when you're living in today and you're not looking into the future. I probably am.
You care so much about today, but you also care about the future. And you're looking at people and want to pull out your hair because you're like, guys, this is a great little option right now, but I want you to just look 10 feet in front of you. Because once you look 10 feet in front of you, metaphorically, you're going to see that this is not a good move, man.
Not only that, Rubio, but too, like, how long ago did we stop teaching civics in class in school?
Mhm.
Right? Like, I get it. Like, I want a nice lifestyle. Like, that's one of the things that we joke around a lot about me, and I kind of touched on it. Like, what's my skill set? I don't know. I work my ass off so that
Yeah.
the skill sets that I don't have, I can pay you to do the skill sets that I don't have. Like,
100%.
I'm the visionary. Like, I paint these really cool pictures, and then I work my ass off to help everybody get that picture done so that then I can have an income, so then I can pay the person to not do those things, or the things that I can't do, you come do it for me, you know? And so the civic duty, like, how much money is too much? How much is enough? Like, I feel like everyone's coming to Harrison and they see this gold mine. Like, yeah, it is for 4 months. For four
Okay.
months. And then
Okay.
when you live here, hold on, Rubio, when you live here all year round, that 4 month income isn't anything because you spend all your money, all if you're here for the community,
Yeah.
which we had been, right? And there's one more little thing that's changed too, right? When I first when I, prior to living in Harrison, I had a bar in Coeur d'Alene.
All right, so Whitney, we've obviously switched locations. You wanted some better lighting. You had to go do some stuff. I had to go do some stuff as well. The last I left you off, we were talking about you or a visionary, and you started becoming a visionary as you opened up a bar in CDA. So how did your vision start from there all the way to One Shots?
Oh, you want me to go back that far?
Oh
I'll
yeah,
be careful. I'll keep it.
you're fine.
No, I just when I came up from Boise, I thought, oh my gosh, this is an amazing, beautiful town. I'm seeing it in a different light. Everything in Boise was farm to table, right? I worked for a gentleman by the name of Dave Crick, and it was dumb luck. My sister started with him. He started a restaurant in 1993 called Bitter Creek Ale House. And he is a true restaurateur. Like, he taught me how to run a restaurant. Him and his wife Jamie, there was just some amazing people and amazing talent that I learned a lot from. But his big passion, he has, um to me, he's like the Kevin Bacon of Boise, right? If you run and operate a good restaurant in Boise, at some point you worked for Dave Crick. And he has the Reef, Bitter Creek. He had Reef. It doesn't matter, right? He has all these phenomenal restaurants. And his whole thing was he started this Just Eat Local movement. And it was and now it's farm to table. And I'm pretty sure I'm accurate on this detail. He started the farmers market in Boise. And so I come from all these good roots and all this good background. I come up to Coeur d'Alene. I have a great now, like, restaurant education, because I worked for mom and pops. I worked corporate. I worked for Chili's. I worked for Red Lobster. So I had all this corporate training. I had all these phenomenal coaches that taught me how to be a hard worker, put my head down, hard work pays off, all those things. And then I had somebody like a Dave Crick that showed me how to take all of that and make it work in a mom and pop's restaurant. So I think a lot of it's dumb luck. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I knew how hard I could work, and I believed in myself. So came up to Coeur d'Alene back because some boy would break my heart in Coeur d'Alene. So I'd run to Boise. Boise, I'd make really good money, but I couldn't make the money that I wanted to make in when I come up here to Coeur d'Alene. So it was this, like, goofy thing. Well,
Mhm.
finally in 2009, I'm like, I'm going back home, right? I felt like Coeur d'Alene was home. I loved it up here. Once you're in northern Idaho, Boise's now a desert, but there's just a lot of really cool things. So I came up with all these fresh, cool, new ideas that weren't new and cool. They're old in Boise, but they were new and cool in North Idaho. So went to go and apply at this restaurant. They wanted nothing to do with me. Like I just, because of you, like you said, my personality, right? I am this, like, I walk in the room and I'm like, I'm in charge.
Yeah, I got it.
Whoever thought they were in charge, move over. I'm in charge. So they wouldn't hire me. I interviewed at the Davenport Hotel. I was number 2 in line for the beverage director, and called my old boss down in Boise. I'm like, what happened? I thought for sure I had I thought I had the job. I told them that you would never be happy unless you were working for yourself. So again, dumb luck. I ran into an old girlfriend who her parents, she was going through her stuff, but her parents always wanted to own a restaurant bar. I had all this talent and all this just, willpower and desire. So we went into business together. That didn't work out. And I found myself, stumbling back here to Harrison a couple different times. And people tell me I should buy this bar in Harrison, Idaho. And at that point, I hadn't met my husband yet. And I joked around about being a spinster and having, 75 cats and all. And I was never coming to Harrison. And I mean, that was in 2010. And look at, we're in 2024. I feel the weight of the world having to keep my restaurant in Harrison, Idaho open so that the next, 20 something, Whitney Hruza who rolls through town is like, yeah, I want to live in this town. I can make a living in this town. I can have a phenomenal life in this town. It was that the question that you asked me. Is that the answer that should have come from the question you asked me?
Absolutely. So how do you ensure that the next Whitney Hruza wants to come into Harrison? How do we do that? How it's 2024.
No,
Okay, so
that's where
let's do this. We're basically in 2025. How can this happen by, say, 2026? We'll give you 400 days. How do you make that happen?
okay. Well, I'm just Rubio. I believe in you tell people what you're doing and people find you, right?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of different little things I'm working on. I started a nonprofit. It's called the Harrison Difference Makers. We're going to try and raise some funds through that. I need workers. We need people that want to live and work here, and then we need people that want to start their businesses. So your podcast is a start, right?
Okay.
Like, how can you, with the voice and the presence that you have, who are you going to get me in front of that can help me continue this message? In between our break, I took 2 different phone calls. One phone call is a farmer up in like the Sandpoint, north of Sandpoint area. And, she's trying to make a living up in that area, trying to, sell her products. So it's like, okay, her and I are talking. Another gal, she wants to make sure everyone has healthy, clean water. So in the hour that you and I took a break, the 2 phone calls that I took were water and food, and so I'm going to keep doing this. I closed down One Shots. We were kind of right here, Rubio, when we left off. Amanda and Jordan, there's no way that the 3 of us could have done this without each other, right? And that's what's really hard is there was all these goofy things that happened all this year. Airbnbs play a role, in my opinion, right? If you don't agree with my opinion, that's great. You can have your own. But Airbnbs, I think, are a detriment to our community and to, I think, is the population greater, and it's going to come out that way. Losing Jordan and Amanda. I mean, the 3 of us had this magical team. Like, we all had these amazing skill sets that came together. And, being siblings, I'm sure that Amanda was miserable in the middle of me and Jordan. We both raised ourselves, so we're both ornery. And so, going into this summer, I knew I was going to have a tough go anyways, because I lost those 2 key people in my life and in my business. And so I was just, all right, put my head down like I knew how to do, and you're just going to work through it. But I now know that my hard work and my ability to put my head down and work will not make One Shot survive. I had to close to be able to book. There's a book it's right there on my shelf right now. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality. It's a great little book. I'm not even going to, I was going to walk over and go get it, but I won't. But it's called Unreasonable Hospitality. His Will Guidara, he was running for his 5th Michelin star. He has a quote that just stuck with me because there's a couple books that I read going into the busy, crazy season. This is a new one. He just put it out this spring, and it said, sometimes you have to slow down to speed up.
100%.
So I have this big, huge vision, right? I can talk to people about it for hours, but it's not written down. It's not clear. So part of me closing One Shots was, okay, you have your lighthouse, but you haven't described it to anybody. You don't know how you're getting there.
Okay, hold on.
So
Hold
Go
on.
ahead.
You keep referencing the lighthouse, a lighthouse. This is a metaphorical lighthouse. Like, what do you? There's actually not a lighthouse in Harrison, right? Like, what do you
Rubio,
keep?
you don't know about the lighthouse in Harrison?
Let's pretend I don't know anything.
The lighthouse is a metaphor.
Okay, but
When you're a lost ship, I have so many books and so many references in my brain. The lighthouse is a metaphor. The lighthouse is a metaphor from actually somebody that you and I both know, Ian Hill,
Mhm.
brought a lot of great things into my world. One of them was this, hey, what's your focus? And so when your ship lost out at sea, what do? You're lost, you're floating, you set your course for the lighthouse and you're getting there. And there could be 15 different ships that are lost out at sea, but you're all going to take a different path and you're going to get to the lighthouse. So, in my opinion, the lighthouse for Harrison to extend the season to be an 8-month season, a 9-month season, a 10-month season. We all got to figure out how to get rid of just tourism dollars as our only source of income, or how do you make those tourism dollars stretch? Before, Harrison was a huge mill town. I showed you that map. That is no longer there. And since then we've been this lost, we're in a red ocean. We have not found our blue ocean strategy yet. Another book reference. But so we all need to figure out, like, is what we're all going to do? I think it's brilliant. I see the food movement. I see the health movement. You talk about, Rubio, you're notorious. Obviously, I'm a Trump supporter for so many different reasons. I am his policy supporter, I guess I should say, maybe not him 100%, but the Make America Healthy Again. Like, that's the way of the future, and trying to get my thoughts down. I'm going to need a team to help me be like, okay, what are we doing? Where was I going? Anyway, so the lighthouse, Rubio, the lighthouse is, I think if we all become farm to table, you're going to keep people like me in Harrison, Idaho. I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm not a money person. I'm a legacy person. Like, I want to leave this place better than I found it. I want my kids to have the opportunity. I want the Whitney Hruza to have the next opportunity to come in and have the American dream. I mean, I've told my story before. Came down here. I had $1,500. My brother had $1,500. And 12 years later, we own the building. We both own a big chunk of property, and we have all that we need. Do we have a ton of extras? No, but neither he or I are that way, And so, the to have that opportunity is going to go away because people like me that are willing to come, and I want the lifestyle. I don't need fame and fortune, or I wouldn't be in Harrison, Idaho. But even me who want this lifestyle, if you're going to make me work 12 months out of the year, never see my family, I'm not going to be here long term. Like, the city has to attract business owners that have a work-life balance. And there's no such thing as work-life balance, but that have an opportunity to have a good life and also a good business.
Okay,
And
so
there's people like me out there.
how does the city sell that? Okay.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go
Me
ahead.
too. Okay. So there's lots of different ways. So there was a gentleman. So what happens, right? There's a cycle. I have all these brilliant ideas. I get my ass handed to me all summer long. I take a break, I rest, and then I have to go back and I have to work at one shots to save as much money. And so my ideas never get put into reality.
Okay.
So another reason of why one shots is closed. Like, I have to pivot. If I don't pivot and change my business model right now with how I've been running.
Don't pivot right now. The city sells it by what? Give me 5. I'm typing these down here. The city sells it 5,
So
4, 2, 1, 15. I don't care.
So first, we all have to agree that we're on the same light. We're at the same lighthouse, right? Is that the direction we want to go? Okay. So we all have to agree on our lighthouse and where we're going. Second thing is that we have to make that clear. Right now, it's not clear. So, okay, what do we need to do? We need to let people know who we're looking for, right? There's the headquarters of Walmart. They did a huge marketing campaign where they were trying to get people, and I should have these notes in front of me, but they were trying to get people to move to their little town. So they are offering people money. We'll give you $10,000 if you move to our little town in, can't remember if it was Arkansas or wherever it was, if you come and start your life here. And then they listed all their qualities they have, right? So it's like, I guess whether the city wants to buy in or wants to do the lighthouse or not, like this is the direction I'm going in. And I hope that I can convince people with a better quality of life, healthier products, um, happier people, a better community. I hope that people agree that this is the way we're going. But I think then we need a clear picture. Like, okay, this is where we're going. Here's a lighthouse. Here's how we're getting there. And then here's who we need to help us navigate to that lighthouse. We need people that, want a good, healthy lifestyle, that want, a quality life. And with that comes, hard work, good food, good people. And those are the people we're going to go try and find and let them know this is what we're doing.
And you're not just looking for people just in Idaho right now. You want this podcast to go all over and just say, hey, because it's like a hidden gem, this Harrison, and you're saying basically we're looking for people that all agree in the same lighthouse, happier, better, quality of life, healthier. And you got to make it clear and need people that want to live a healthy and good life. Hey, we're offered in Harrison.
And aren't scared to work.
Huh?
And aren't scared to do the work.
And aren't scared to do the work. Okay.
Right. Because like so many different quotes, right? Everybody wants to see the top of the mountain, but nobody wants to do the climb. There's all these little, sayings out there. So it's like, this is the beginning of changing our town. And I hope that people are on the same page. I feel like when I'm out talking to people, people are on the same page. And so yeah, it's anybody that out there that wants like these coastal cities, right? That are people that are moving in. Like I always ask them, like, how do you end up in Harrison, Idaho? I have a joke with Tim and Marie. Tim and Marie that own the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
I joke about them that they're the witness relocation program. They know nobody. They just were like, that's where we're going. We're going to this little town called Harrison, Idaho. And so why do people go where they go? Well, okay, when you're out there deciding where you want to put your roots down, where you want to start your family, where you want to maybe grow your family, I'm going to give you reasons of why to come to Harrison, Idaho. Like the lifestyle here is fantastic. The people are awesome. It's hard to make a living. You're not going to get rich living in Harrison, Idaho, unless you are an investor, right? If you're an investor and you're not here to do it, like you absolutely can, but it's not going to make the community work long term.
Hold on, with it being 2024, almost 2025, if I'm on your lighthouse board and I'm like, okay, we need to reach out to people. One of the main things that I would push is, okay, yes, you need people that want a happier life, healthier life, good life, that aren't afraid to do some work. But then you're saying, okay, you're not going to be rich in Harrison, Idaho. That's no longer necessarily true in 2024 and 2025, because I could easily do my job in Harrison, Idaho, because I do so much of it on Wi-Fi. Okay, that's number one. And number two, because I could do this podcast right now because I have good Wi-Fi. Number two, their airport is relatively close. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours away. It's not bad. And it's one of those things that if so many people are working remote now that you could be working in Scottsdale, Arizona, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New York City, New York, or Harrison, Idaho, and no one knows where you're at. And as long as you have good enough Wi-Fi, so that would be something that someone could easily make great money and still have a phenomenal life if they had that type of job where they're a computer nerd in a good way, where they're just behind a desk all day long and no one knows where they are as long as they can turn on their Zoom meeting twice a day at 9 and 11 a.m.
100% Rubio. You 100% accurate. It's the chicken and the egg. Yeah. Right now, we don't have the best internet. Like I've moved now a couple of different spots because the internet was good there, but the lighting wasn't good. The lighting's good there, but the internet's not good. Anyway, so yeah, that's another piece of the puzzle that we need. Right now, we're missing good internet. So once we get good internet, but with Starlink, right? A lot more people now are doing Starlink. So there's different things. Go ahead.
I'm using Starlink right now. And it's phenomenal.
From your iPhone?
It hooked up to my roof right now. I'm in Lewiston, Idaho. I'm 2 hours and 15 minutes southwest of you, and it's fantastic.
I'm in a brick building. Brick buildings are a little bit different.
Go to my location in One Shots with my name placard right there. That's got great Wi-Fi.
But again, get it to the basement in the brick.
Just give it
Are you
to
saying you're going to move your, are you saying you're moving your studio up here?
I would do it in a heartbeat if
Okay,
the
queen.
me too. Okay, so how are you going to get this message out? Okay, so we've got this message of the lighthouse. You understand? I understand it. Happier, better quality of life, healthier people that are willing to work. How do we spread it out to say, okay, I'm Whitney. Come speak to me. Let me give you some more. I've given you some appetizers of the restaurant. Now let me feed you. How do we do that?
That's your job, Rubio.
That's my
I'm
job.
the talker. I'm the visionary. Your job is the person that puts it out there.
Okay, I can do that.
So right now, the best way to get a hold of me is through one shots, right? I'm still one of those people that I'm a little bit weird about giving. I know my personal information, all that, whatever. I don't know. What do you think, Rubio? How do I do it? I tell them to contact me through one shots, right?
So use the one shots email,
One shots email. Yes, use the one shots email.
which
Or
is,
should I put out the Harrison difference makers?
do you have
One
a
shots is easier for
do you
right
have a
now.
website for Harrison Difference Makers?
Nope.
You have a
Working on it.
Facebook page.
N- yeah, no. Yes, I do. So
Oh,
maybe we should edit this part out.
no, it's fine. People need to know it's real. I mean, you've got your lighthouse, but that lighthouse could still need some painting. It's okay.
No. So again, it's why I had to close one shots, right? Is that I know that there's things that I need to do to be able to make this happen. And it's the slowing down to
Mhm.
speed up. So the Harrison difference makers, we started at when did we start at Rubio?
I don't know.
When did you introduce me to Ian?
It's been about a year and a half.
Okay. So it started out of that. Actually, it started out of a book called 13 Ways to Kill Your Community. So at the end of that book, the author tells you to call him. And so I called him. I'm like, hey, your book says call you. I'm calling you. And he's a very smart man, wants some money. But then we met Ian. So yeah, we got this Harrison difference makers. But again, it was that fall, spring, and then you're gearing up, and then you just get your butt handed to you, and then you're gearing down. So I had to close one shots to be able to get this other foundation in place,
What,
right? So that my
what do
foundation's
you,
strong, so I can run hard and go for the next 10 years and build, the community of Harrison, with my lighthouse being farm to table food.
okay, so farm to table food is the first thing. Farm to table food is the first thing. Getting people in is the second thing. Getting people in that have the right mindset.
Because you need to come to Harrison with some cash, right? I mean, and so investors are needed. People that want to put money behind something like this, absolutely. But people that are coming to Harrison, we are right now, you are going to make your money unless you do use the internet, but come with Starlink. You around here right now, you make your money in this last year in 2023 or 2024, you didn't start making money till July. So you only made money in July, August, and September. And then everything else was you better have good savings this year, because of the weather.
Mhm.
So again, you know, come to Harrison because you're going to have a really good quality of life. You're going to have an amazing life. You have the lake, you have the mountains, you have fresh air, you have room, you have all these things. But that little thing that we all need, money,
Mhm.
is harder, and you have to be more creative, which I guess I'm looking for the hardworking, creative people that aren't scared of that want that lifestyle. They want the room, the lake, the mountains, the healthy lifestyle, the great community. Those are all the things of the people that I'm looking for. Come to Harrison.
Well, and I think I had someone on my podcast 2 weeks ago, Doc and Chef from New Zealand,
Oh,
MD and Chef, and they're just great. And they were just talking about the whole FDA thing and how just, wow. If you haven't read this book, and I'm
you're
sure you,
pulling up good energy. I even
that,
pulled it up before you said it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that this whole farm to table thing, it's so true that, and then you've got this plots of land out in Harrison and this openness and airness, and you've got water and you've got power and you've got good Wi-Fi as long as you got Starlink and things like that. And it's one of those things that if you're a young couple that's looking to raise kids right, holy hell, Harrison is the jackpot. Or if you're a middle-aged couple and you're looking for a new start, once again, jackpot. Or if you're a retired couple and you're just looking to get out of the rat race, my God, I can't even tell you how many people I've brought up to Harrison where they just look at it and go, "This is a gold mine." And I go, "Yeah, don't tell anybody." Well, tell people, but
So
Tell some people.
that book, Good Energy, right? So what's funny about that book, I can't remember where I saw it, or so when it first came out, somebody told me to read it. And I started listening to it because I do everything on earbuds. And I had a hard time listening to it.
Mhm.
And then next thing you know, I saw a couple of the interviews on podcasts because I think there's different people that bring different energy. So then I was like, okay. And yeah, and so 4 or 5 months later, I'm like, and everyone's talking about, which is fantastic, but that's this whole entire thing. Like, how did we get like this old man that's here? He says the worst thing that ever happened to the United States was the interstate system, right? Because now you don't know your neighbors. You don't know where your food's coming from. You don't know you all look the same now. We're all going to the same 6 stores and getting our clothes. So there's just all this stuff. And if we got back to where we were self-sustained, right. Back to my podcast, Will Harris, who's coming to, now I can say it, he's coming to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho next year at the homesteading group at the fairgrounds. So he's the one that started it all for me, right? It's this regenerative farming. It's knowing your neighbors, what they're producing and helping them sell their products, or you're buying their products. You're representing their products in your business. And I feel like if we had more community members here, more people could be doing that.
So you're all about a very, very strong community that can be considered basically a larger family.
With even the ones you don't like. Yep.
Well, yeah, because that's obvious because there's not one human being alive that I could say you have a big family. Yeah, I got 15 cousins, 3 grandparents, whatever, blah blah blah. You like all of them equally? Hell no. I like one
No.
cousin Johnny a lot better. He's kind of the town jackass, but I like him. He's that guy. And you're not going to get along with everybody. And I think that's one of those things, like you said earlier, you got to find everyone's strengths and or weaknesses. Okay, everyone's going to have their strengths and weaknesses. Like Johnny may be the world's best communicator, but good God, he's terrible at the little intricacies. So the little things we're not going to have him do. We need someone to introduce the local street park new bench. Johnny's the one that can do it because he can't shut up. But do we need Johnny signing autographs later? No, because he's going to write something stupid. And so that's one of those things that you're going to have to find out everyone's strengths and weaknesses. And I think the hard part, and this is going to come back to my next question, living in a small town, good and bads, is that you're not going to get along with every family member. It's not going to happen. And it's one of those things that you have to learn that in a smaller town, I've joked with you before. It's like Harrison, sometimes to me, it's almost like a big middle school. And you have like the gossip over here, the gossip over here. And it's one of those things that you just got to kind of laugh off and just say, okay, what is it? Or just say it to my face in one of those things. And so how do you break out of that? How do you break out of the eighth grade atmosphere, I always call it?
I don't know. I haven't found the right podcast or book that's told me how to do that because I'm usually, yeah, I don't know. Ruby, I don't have that
I
answer
think you're
because right
always,
now,
I
what?
think you're always in the middle of it simply because you care so much. And when someone cares so much about something, they can come off as almost angry. Where just think of it like a mama moose. How much does a mama moose care about her little kid moose? You get near a mama moose with a kid moose, what's the mama moose doing? She's running your
She's
ass
taking you
over.
out.
Yeah, she's
She's taking
taking
you
you
out.
out. And it's not that she's angry. She's angry at that point, but it's because she cares. And that's what I
Yeah. And
think.
I think, yeah,
No, go ahead.
I think I was gonna say, I think you're 100% accurate on that. I think a lot of people see my passion and drive, and they use these words that I don't even see myself as. And then the people that get to know me, it was so funny. I was sitting at the grocery store because again, gift of gab, and this girl that I used to work with down in Boise at that big bar that I ran, she moved to this town. It's like, how'd that happen? But so we were sitting there and I was in the grocery store, joking around with Tim and Marie. And she came in and we were talking and she goes, oh yeah, Whitney, her bark has always been worse than her bite. And it's like, so always that way. The gal that I was just talking to, in between, yours and I's downtime, she was like, there's just, it's the same thing, like I've just always had this passion and this drive, and I'm working on it. Like as you get older, right? Like you're supposed to see your strengths and your weaknesses and you work on your weaknesses. So I like how you described it, my over caring for my community has been off-putting at times. I haven't communicated it correctly, but anybody that knows me and knows me well will tell you that, dude, that girl would blood, sweat, and tears for Harrison, right? Blood, sweat, and tears for Harrison. And I just, I don't want this little town to go away. It's never going to get ginormous. It's never going to get huge. There's limitations. And so it's, it's these, there's just lots. I mean, I could talk about this for hours, Rubio, and going different directions. And which one do you want me to pivot to? What book do you want me to reference? What podcast, But yeah, I just think that there's some amazing opportunities. Who wants to bake the bread for all of the restaurants in the summer? And then you're going to start getting ready for your next season. Who's going to want to, make the jams and the jellies? Who's going to pickle the vegetables? Who's going to make, whatever condiment? Who's raising the beef? Who's raising the chickens? Who's, collecting the eggs? There's so many different things that we used to do within one community that we no longer do. And I think Harrison is the perfect spot for that farm to table. There's two spots that could be amazing wedding venues. What are the cool things for wedding venues? Farm to table. There's just, fly in your chef. I'll make sure that all of their food's ready at all of their stuff that they've ordered in will be over in their communal kitchen, and they can come cater your wedding. I mean, there's just so many great businesses that could happen out of Harrison, Idaho.
Okay, so my next question is, why isn't everyone on board? And I'm going to answer it because I think, why isn't everyone on board? Because I don't think everyone understands it and or knows it. And that's one of the reasons for this podcast, is that people can replay it 1,000 times and break it down, and we'll break it down by section. Okay, Whitney's talking about farm to table here. She's talking about her lighthouse here. She's talking about this podcast here, and then what the characteristics of people she wants at the lighthouse. But what are you doing, or what can I do, or what can someone who's a resident of Harrison do in order to, let's start at home. Okay, so let's say there's 267 residents of Harrison. We'll throw out a number. How can I get those 267 people, or no, let's say 260, because let's say 7 people are invalid. They're just too old. How do we get them involved? How can we go? Well, I'm just honest. How do we get someone to know, okay, Johnny, you're a hell of a public speaker. We need you to do this for Harrison Difference Makers. Sammy, you're a phenomenal bookkeeper. We need you to do this. So is it all on Whitney Hruza's shoulders? Or do you have a team, your team right now? Is there anyone that can help you besides me? Or, hey, Dale, you grow the best damn flowers in all of Harrison. How do we make it to where you start donating flowers to One Shots, the store, and blah, 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 and wedding venues? How do we do that?
Well, Rubio, we do that, but who's the team? So I think that there are definitely people in the community that want this, right? And I don't know, Rubio. I actually don't have an answer to that right now. I don't. What's the next step? Go ahead.
I have an answer. Okay. And this is, I always tell you this. I think it needs to be where, okay, you've got your team, even if your team is just, say, you and I. Okay, maybe we throw Big Brad in the mix. We throw someone else in the mix. Okay, and then what we do is we pick.
Are you going to tell everyone who Big Brad is? You've referenced him now twice.
No, they either know or they don't know. We line up, say, 100 residents of Harrison. We get a chart, literally the whiteboard behind you. Boom, boom, boom. Johnny, Timmy, Sammy, Frank, whatever. We start this. This person does this very well. This person does this very well. This person does this very well. And not everyone's going to have their strengths and weaknesses. And then we specifically go to Johnny, Timmy, Sammy, Frank, and say, here's how you can make a difference in Harrison. This is what I see. Am I wrong or am I right? And put it right on them. Okay. And they say, you grow the best flowers. Am I wrong or am I right? Yes, you're right. I do grow the best flowers. Can you produce more flowers enough to where we can sell them in the market, that we can sell them at One Shots, that we can sell them at this store, that we can sell them as, a guy gets off the boat and he gets gas and he sees his lady and he's like, here, honey, here's a dandelion. I don't know what a flower is. Things like that.
They're dahlias.
Whatever.
They're not dandelions. They're dahlias.
Do I look like I know what a flower difference is?
I'm going to make sure that Dale sees this podcast and that he knows that you don't know what the difference between the flowers he grows.
100%. Okay, so that's the plan.
That's the plan. So we're going to go. And so to me, it's what are you passionate about? If you're in the Harrison area or, close proximity, I would start with, while I'm trying to figure out One Shots.
I disagree. I disagree right off the bat. I'm not even going to give them the option. I'm not going to go to Whitney and say, what are you passionate about, Whitney? I'm going to say, Whitney, you're a go-getter. You're a workhorse. You're like a damn Clydesdale. You'll work until your hooves are bleeding. Okay. So your job is going to be blank. Do you feel like you could do that job very well? Or do you feel like you have more passion for something else? So I come at them first. I tell them what I think they could do because I know it. And then I'm going to say, do you agree with me? Or do you have passion for something else? Like I'm going to the flower guy. Flower guy, you're the best flower guy. Do you feel like you can produce the best flowers? And he says, well, actually, I'm more passionate about making mustard seed. Okay, well, that's good to know. But see, I think that's what you do. You line up 100 people, boom, and then we start going.
This is your hole. This is the cog I'm sticking you in to turn the wheel.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Is that what you're saying?
Are you telling me that's my cog, or you're saying that you're being me now?
I'm with you on the same page. Yes. Yes. I
saying-
can name 10 people in this town that I think would do a phenomenal job. Actually, so yesterday I was in St. Mary's. I'm trying to recruit this gal to come in and start this business in Harrison, Idaho. I was in St. Mary's just trying to pluck her out of St. Mary's and bring her to Harrison because I think that she would be an amazing fit to our community. And, so her and I are brainstorming on how to get her here to Harrison. And I hope I can help her figure that part out. Like sometimes I feel like one shots is just the thing that opens my door, right? It was the tool that got me to where I want to help other people have the same dream and grow my community. It's like one shots opens that door. And sometimes I need to remember I'm supposed to focus on one shots, get one shots back open. And then it's the vessel and the tool that helps, this vision come to light. But yeah, I think that there's already 10 people that I know of that I think could have a phenomenal business here. And how can I help them? And, who can come to me and even say, Whitney, would you sell this at One Shots? Would you carry this product at One Shots? Would Big Brad put this on his shelves? Like that was another thing as I found this girl who cans products. She cans green beans. She makes phenomenal Bloody Mary stuff. Just all these different things. So I started putting her product in my Bloody Marys. I started, Big Brad's Meats. It's his sausage stick that now goes on our Bloody Mary.
Mhm.
So how many more people can we get that's producing their stuff that we can just sell out of One Shots? We can incorporate into our food system.
100%. It's so easy because it's everyone scratching each other's back. And when you're scratching each other's back, it's not like the person's back that you're scratching is 40 miles away. It's 400 feet away,
Yeah.
and then you've got X amount of people. So that 400 feet gets a lot closer and a lot closer and a lot closer. And then once you sell the quote unquote, the older American dream that becomes the new American dream, I think that's going to be a massive, massive selling point. And like you talked about earlier with the Rona, or you call it COVID, how I think of it as like a great separator, where in my mind you started to see how people really thought, you started to take things more to heart of, okay, all hell's broken loose. How am I going to survive this? And how am I going to move forward with my friends and family? Because that's where, when all hell started breaking loose, what did everyone do? They went boom, and their circles got a lot tighter. It started with just my family, and then I'm going to let in, 2 other people, 4 other people, six other people, where you weren't sure because, okay, you're hearing all these things, and then people opened it up a lot more, but you still remember who was your ride or dies at the beginning, like, okay, all hell's breaking loose. Where am I going? What am I doing? Who am I talking to? These are the people. And you're just trying to build that on steroids, just in Harrison.
Yeah. And, I think we need the other part that we haven't talked about at all is legislators, right? I need legislators. I need people that know how to run communities. Because that's one other side note that maybe I just want to touch on too, really quick, Rubio, is I think one of the problems with Harrison, you were talking about that. How do you not make it a high school? How do you not make it a middle school? The reason why we're a middle school is because we've had a lack of foundation for so long. Our rule book is junk, right? And I shouldn't be saying this on national TV. That's the era that I come from. On this podcast, it could go so big, but one of my local councilmen, when he became a councilman, I said the first thing you need to do is you need to throw out the rule book and you guys need to go code by code and rewrite the codes. Our codes are so outdated, so problematic that it's constantly causing a fight. Like
Okay.
the cities.
Give me one code that needs to be written. One code that is bad is blank,
The Airbnb code. Right now, the Airbnb code. In 2022, and I'm going to throw a couple people under the bus, but I think that this needs, like, the community members need to be honest with each other and say, you really screwed this up. And you knew it because you came to me after you wrote the code and said, you know what? I have the text message that said, hey, Whitney, you were right. I really screwed this up. You told me you were going to fix it and you didn't.
So
That code,
how can it be
that
fixed?
code, hold on. So the code that they wrote in 2022 for the Airbnb doesn't protect the local homeowners. It does not make those businesses go through the same processes that the actual businesses go through in town. It said in 2022, the volume is to listen to it as loud as your grandmother would listen to, like the help me here, Rubio, get me back on track. The
Noise ordinance.
noise ordinance. The noise ordinance says for the Airbnbs that you're to listen to the music as loud as your grandmother would listen to it. Well, my grandma's deaf, so she has to put it on a 15 because she has to crank it up so loud that she can hear it. So how does that, in 2022, they wrote that to the code. There was an amazing code that the previous hotel owner had brought. It was Wardner's, right? Like, there's people that have done this. Like, we don't need to rewrite. We don't need to go explore new territory and rewrite this whole new thing. There's people that are doing it right. And one of the places that did Airbnbs right, that balanced things out, that said, okay, we're Idahoans. We want property rights. We want those protected. But we do know that there needs to be income. People aren't living here all year round. So we do want people that, have Airbnbs. Okay, Wardner over is a little small town that is in Kellogg, has a great Airbnb. One of the local guys took that to the city. Nope, didn't look at that. The person that wrote the code said, when I asked him, I said, where did you get a comparison? How did you come up with your code? Well, Post Falls. How does Post Falls Airbnb have any kind of relation to Harrison, Idaho, right? Wardner, a seasonal resort town, has a lot more probably similarities than Post Falls, Idaho. Okay. So the Airbnb code needs to go. Well, let's hear what other ones on the top of my head. So you're asking me this.
You don't have to list them all, but I'm saying, how can local government assist you in Harrison difference makers? How can local government, if someone wants to come in and help out, what can they do? What can the local government do?
What we need is we just need somebody to come in and start with a better foundation. Our codes are old. So what happens is that those codes, when somebody comes in with a good idea, Harrison will bend over backwards to help you. They'll find a code, but that code is just specifically exactly what works for you. Well, then the next person comes to you and says, hey, I want that same thing that SSOneShotCharlies has. Well, we found this perfect, code that works just for one shots and one shots only. Like, there was a big fight about garbages. So we just need somebody that's willing to come in. The city government is a thankless job. You're not going to get paid, but the wanting to fix little small communities and give back a foundation of things that work, that's what we need, right? We need people that have, I don't care what the rule book is, but right now the problem with Harrison is there's a different rule book. When you walk through the door, you have a brilliant, great idea. Here, we'll find this rule. It works for you, but it doesn't work for everybody. So throw out the rule book, start over, and be like, okay, here's the foundation of how we want our city to be ran. So one of the big things that are happening right now is these food trucks, right? Food trucks, we didn't have one at all. We didn't have a code for peddlers, right? And so you had a family that wanted to move in, that wanted to do food trucks or something closer to. They came to me and asked my brother first, and they said, well, he said, Whitney runs the kitchen. You got to go talk to her. That person needs a communal kitchen to make all of their products. I don't have a communal kitchen for them to use. They wanted me to lie about it. I wasn't willing to lie about it, right? Because of who I am, the soapbox that I stand on, I create a huge target on my back. So I wasn't willing. So we've moved forward past that. So next thing you know, peddler permit comes in, and I feel like the businesses and people that want the peddler permit should hash it out together. I mean, that's a true democracy. That's a true republic. You come together. You like this idea. I like this idea. We need to put those two together to make us all be happy, right? We're all going to give a little bit. So, we need a permit for in the summertime. You do not have on Saturdays and Sundays. I can't do any more volume pretty much. I am maxed out on volume, especially on Saturdays. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have plenty of room for more people to come in and hang out in Harrison. But everybody wants to come in and do a food truck on a Saturday. We don't need that, right? We need you to come in on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Or pardon me, fix that. On Saturday, there's no more room. Like we are completely busy, but that's the only days that we make sure we make money. If now you have people that come in and then on Saturdays are taking up the parking spots because we only have a finite set of parking, boat parking or street parking. Now you have vendors coming in and taking up Saturday parking, and that they're there and they're going to take that one day that you are full to the max, and they're going to come and they're going to pull those people away from the local businesses that then stay here, the brick and mortars, all winter, pay rent, pay heat, pay property taxes, all those things. But those vendors are being attracted just on that one busiest day because that's the only day that it's so busy we can't take care of everybody. How are we attracting people to come down on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Right? Did that go right, or did that not go right?
Whitney sense, but what if the proprietors come in, say for Johnny's food truck, and they pay a 20% tax to the city?
Again, I'm fine with whatever it is, but I think it needs to be hashed out between, that's one of those codes.
Okay.
Who has found the code that worked well for their town? Like
going back to the codes. So what was it, Carida, or where was that city? Wilmer?
Wardner.
Wardner, that's it. So Wardner basically stole Post Falls codes because you're allowed to do that.
No, our city said that when they wrote the Airbnb code, they went and looked at Post Falls.
Okay.
That shouldn't have been. Our city should have looked at someplace closer like Wardner. Our city should have looked at someplace closer like, even though it's further down, it's in southern Idaho.
Hold on, you broke up. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
What just happened?
There you go. I can hear you now. Okay.
I didn't do anything.
What I'm saying is, if I'm looking at this and I'm going lazy man, is there any way possible to look at other cities that are in relation to Harrison, Idaho, whether it's population, land, blah, 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 and just say, okay, Smithtown has a great set of codes. Let's just take Smithtown codes and just rewrite them.
Well, yeah, but everyone's a little bit different, like, right? So Wardner works really well.
I'm not saying identically, but I'm just saying, okay, out of 100 bullet points of codes, holy hell, they've got 87 that are fantastic. We just need to come up with 13 because Harrison's on the water. It's got this, it's got that, blah, blah, blah. There's got to be some place where you could.
There's better places. There's better places than Post Falls, right? To me, you're looking for resort towns that did it right. You're looking for Sandpoint's doing a lot of really great things right. Some things not so good. You have Wardner that did the Airbnb code really well. You have the Victor and Driggs is right on the other side of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, right? So are you familiar with Jackson Hole?
Yeah.
So Jackson Hole, Wyoming is when I was growing up, since I'm from Southern Idaho, that's where the joke was, that's where all the millionaires would go and hang out. You had Sun Valley and you had Jackson Hole, right? Sun Valley is dead set in the middle of Idaho, right? But then you had Jackson Hole where the millionaires supposedly all lived. Mm-hmm. So then now what's the joke is that the billionaires came and kicked out the millionaires. Well, so what it is that Jackson Hole is in Wyoming and it's right on the border of Idaho and Wyoming. So what happened is all of the people that work in Jackson Hole lived in Idaho. They lived in Driggs and they lived in Victor. They would take the path, would go over and they would work in Jackson Hole. They would get tipped out. They would have their businesses in Jackson with all these people that didn't care what the price tag was, that wanted the services. Well, obviously, what Jackson Hole or what Driggs and Victor, Idaho is dealing with now is the billionaires came and kicked out the millionaires. The millionaires came over to Idaho and now have kicked out all the local residents that were servicing Jackson. So Harrison and Harrison and Victor and Driggs are a lot more similar,
Mhm.
because what's happening now is that you have Coeur d'Alene that's just taking off and going nuts. Harrison will never go nuts. We're going to have some land issues no matter what. But
Good.
you still now have everybody that's come here, bought all the workforce housing, and has turned it into this Airbnb stuff. So we should be looking at places like a Victor, a Driggs, Idaho. We should be looking at places like Wardner. So when my local city council member told me that when they wrote the code, they pulled from Post Falls, like, what do you, that to me, that, why are you, that's apples and bananas. That's not even the same shape as our community at all. So when I say that we need legislators that are going to come in and they're going to help us, they understand that two codes, even though it's an Airbnb code in Post Falls, Idaho, and an Airbnb code in Harrison, it's not the same thing. You need to find an Airbnb code in a town, right? My aunt started talking about where Dirty Dancing was filmed, back in the Catskills,
Yeah, yeah.
because those, I guess, supposedly those places completely shut down. So she's like, why don't we go take a trip and go back and visit and see how they operate in the wintertime and what they do? Maybe it is your town's just going to completely shut down. And maybe, Rubio, that's the direction it goes. I just know that the community doesn't work. You don't have a community if you only have 4 months of income. So I don't know. Now I just feel like, because I could talk for hours. So
No,
if you feel like we're still,
no, I just my whole thing is to build up as Harrison difference makers, get you an audience, get people to contact you to get more information, to understand what I think you made it quite clear what your vision is, and I think it's a fantastic vision. I'm all for it. I think it's a matter of, okay, so with this vision, okay, so I'm a football guy. Let's just say we're starting a football team. You're the owner, okay? You're the owner of the team. Now you need to pick a coach. Okay. And then you need to pick some assistant coaches. And those assistant coaches needs assistants. And those assistants need secretaries. And then once everyone works together towards the owner, i.e. Whitney's dream, then it all sprinkles down. And it becomes like a rain shower head or whatever it's called. And I think that's what you've explained your vision very clearly. And I think you've made it quite clear of how you want it to go about it. I think it's now we just got to line up the soldiers. We got to line up the
who's coming? Who likes this? Come find me.
that's
Find
the
me.
thing.
People find me.
And I think what we'll do is we'll get you on some more podcasts in order to get your audience reach a little bit bigger, because I think it's very similar to anything in Idaho. Once you get people to see it, it's like, whoa, I had no idea, and it's not just corn or not just potatoes or whatever, and it's a lot,
Potatoes.
no, it's a lot different. And it's just a matter of getting the word out and getting the right verbiage out. And I think you've done a very, very good job of that. But we need to make sure that people, what's the One Shot's email?
SSOneShotCharlies at gmail.com. So S is in Sam, S is in Sam, one shots, ONESHOTCHARLIES at gmail.com. SSOneShotCharlies at gmail.com.
Not a problem.
Attention, Harrison Difference Maker. I mean, yeah,
And
I have a hair. Go ahead.
no, and I'm gonna say we'll set you up a Facebook page that's very simple to do. That'll take 2 minutes, and it just gives people another landing pad, because a lot of people are on Facebook, and it just gives. We can just have this video, number one, as the main part, where people could just click on it at any point, and then also just put your vision down.
Well, and I have a Harrison Difference Makers Facebook. It's just not up and going. I started it. There was some little snafus, right? When you put your personal name with, so there's just there's some cleanup. We
Yeah.
got the EIN number. We got all those things. It's just now, taking the next step. So people that want to help me with those steps, that are coming too. I mean, I'll take those people. I think that this isn't like where I have a struggle with is like, I feel so strongly that this is my community, right? But
100%.
this is our community, right, Rubio? Like,
Mhm.
you should be up here because you have a house here. Like, this is where you want to retire. Like, this is our community. And maybe there's somebody else out there that has the same vision, the same mission. We just haven't connected. So if there's anyone in the area that has the same vision for our community, like this is, or a better vision. For being here now for 12 years. So I am now the longest owner of One Shot Charlie's in 75 years, besides Charlie Genesek. So to me, that kind of says a lot. Like there's a lot of transient business owners. You know, one of our little shops is for sale right now. It's a phenomenal business. The people that started it put together a beautiful building. They did a great concept. You know, they bought it to turn it and flip it. Then now the next people, they've had it for a couple of years. Harrison's a tough town, you know, and it takes the right person to come and stay. And now I feel like because I've been here for so long, I just see a lot more. And it's not that my ideas are perfect. Maybe they're not right. There could be some tweaking to them for sure. But right now, nobody else has come and convinced me of any better way to keep people like me, to keep people like the people that are just leaving. They have another opportunity that's closer to home. That's,
Mhm.
you know, they're going to keep this little shop if nothing happens, but you know, it's just a drive for them. You know, it's a great opportunity for somebody else. So how do we get people? Yeah, I mean, we're just repeating the same things now, Rubio.
Yes,
So
it's going to be people watching this, and if everyone that's watching or listening to this can just spread it to like 5 people and just say, hey, I think this would interest you. Here's the reason why. I mean, it takes 2 seconds to share something off YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, you know, very, very simple. It's not a hard
mhm.
concept. And if everyone could just share it to 5 people, it's going to trickle up.
And the other thing is too is just another FYI, kind of a slight plug. Fair Idaho, FARE stands for Food, Agriculture's Restaurants and Drinking Establishments. Fair Idaho, they are trying to get Idaho products to Idaho businesses, Idaho food to Idaho restaurants. So if anyone else is in the Harrison area, but this is also somebody in Idaho that this is something that you do or you want to do and you want to be more connected, Fair Idaho also is a great organization, association that's trying to put those pieces together too and thread the needle. So also Fair Idaho, if you're an Idaho business, Idaho producer, you also need to go check out Fair Idaho.
Absolutely. Whitney, not everyone is going to always agree with you, and that's okay. And not everyone's going to have your work ethic, and that's okay. But I think everyone's going to agree with your complete and total vision for what they want and what they or what they think they need or what they need. It's not even what they think they need. I appreciate your time. We'll get this up, and you did a great job. Absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, Rubio.
Take care.
You too. Peace out.